the scooter receipt he couldn't delete. The night the Riverwalk knew our names. The receipt appeared like a dare inside my shared inbox. Subject line cheerful as if it were trying to cover for itself. Rider receipt 12.8 miles 9:69:52 p.m. Location Riverwalk Dock. Rider Owen. Paid with shared wallet. I read it twice because numbers have a way of being kinder when you misread them. Then I read the line that decided to be a problem. Trip started 9:16 p.m. Scooter unlocked at Dock C. Drop off at Dock F. Note. Stopped for 16 minutes private stop. Below that a tiny map folded open like a hand I hadn't asked to be held, and on that map a blue pin rested 2 clicks from the bench where our apartment's kitchen light hits the river like a promise. Owen had mussed his hair at 8, the jacket he thinks is boyish instead of expensive, kissed me at the door with careful teeth and the breeze of someone rehearsed, and said the exact thing he always says when he disappears into the warm part of his own evening. Wrap toast. Notes with Milo. Don't wait. Milo is sound. He has the kind of face that believes in quiet and the hands of a man who knows how to stop microphones from lying. He'd left his keys in the bowl like a confession, and the oven's cinnamon thing sighed warm in the corner. I should have done the sensible thing, closed the receipt as a false positive and walked into the living room where good songs forgive yesterday. Instead, I pressed the little link that lets math tell you the rest of the night. The map zoomed and bled, and then the map pointed at a tiny rectangle labeled River Dock F and highlighted an icon, benches. A circled time read 9:32:9:48. The private stop had duration stamped like a promise. I put on my jacket because people who decide to be ghosts should at least dress the part. The elevator has been kind to me since we moved here. It forgave the rest of me for reminding it of how often I use it at odd hours. The Riverwalk smelled of fried bread and city patience. The lights were the color of negotiation, soft, deliberate. People who don't understand relationships call nights like this complicated. We call them open chords that keep asking if they could be the whole song. I walked steps in a direction that translated inbox into metric. Dock C had scooters stacked like honest mistakes. Dock F sat like a witness. On the bench, 2 shadows had the kind of closeness that comes pre-annotated. That is, a shoulder leaning into another shoulder with the sort of familiarity you buy years to pretend to inherit. For a second, my brain tried to make us all actors, and then the rawness of human life intervened. There were 2 jackets, one more expensive than the other, a pair of sneakers, a hand that moved like it had been given directions. I didn't want to be a headline. I wanted to be the husband who could be patient. But patience has a tipping point. "You're early," Owen said when he saw me, the use of my name a small thing like a receipt. He hadn't made more noise than necessary. There was a faint gloss at the corner of his mouth, the guilty shine of someone who walked close to something bright and wanted to say it didn't sing. Milo, taller, restless-limbed, face that learns to listen to music in people, stood like a man who had learned the economy of not apologizing for existing. He lifted his head as if studying a map, then looked at my jacket, and gave the kind of tiny nod people give when they've seen this film before, and decided not to be violent about the plot. "Ben," Milo said, my name with the courtesy of a person who cares about nouns. He offered his hand because politeness is a muscle people can flex when they want to be seen as feasible. I could have said the funeral things, name the betrayal carefully, give the specific minute its paragraph. I could have chosen rhetoric as a weapon and used it. I didn't. I wanted to ask how it felt to be the person who took up other people's missing hours. I wanted to know if the private stop was a thing that could go the distance against trust. "What is this?" I asked. No theatrics. I held the phone up like evidence, the blue pin like a star that had grown teeth overnight. Owen's mouth did that exact thing men do when they try to fit a truth into an old shirt. "It wasn't like that," he said. There was a thing with the scooter. Milo's scooter had an error code. He asked me to meet him. I said I would. I sat with him on the bench. We talked. It was nothing. It was a pause. 16 minutes, I said. Numbers have edges. Milo looked at me. He smelled of stage and coffee, the low kind of cologne people who work with sound pretend won't be noticed. "Ben," he said. I called him afterward. I told him I was sorry if it looked like anything. I didn't mean to. "You didn't mean to," I echoed. "And he didn't mean to hop on a scooter with your error code and park himself within texting distance. There is an app sending me time-stamped tenderness." My voice didn't go hard. I didn't want it to. Anger is a tool. I didn't want to break anything I needed to salvage. Owen's hands fluttered as if he could catch the way we were being parallel lines. It was late. We were both tired. The talk just, Milo is kind. He listens to things where they live. I told him about the set and he told me about a mix he couldn't get right. We sat on the bench. I kissed him. I thought I wanted it because it wasn't home and so it wouldn't mean anything. It meant something anyway. The river didn't offer applause. A delivery bike's soft bell wrote punctuation for strangers. You'd think that in these moments the city might help by being metaphysical, but the river is a cold-blooded accountant who adds things up without sentiment. I wanted to be the man who reconciles. I wanted badly to be the sort of person who understands that people are messy and that love isn't a monochrome. But there was a truth that behaved like a toothache. Betrayal begins small, an elevator, a scooter, a bench, and creeps like a rumor until your life is footnotes. "Did you touch him?" I asked. The question sounds savage when you say it out loud because it brings bodies back to their simplest accounting. Owen's pupils dilated the way confession always does. "Yes," he said, "once, but it wasn't what I thought. It was not." He stumbled for a word, used the wrong one, circled back. "It was not the way it is with you. It was softer and that made it worse." Milo's jaw tightened. He had the look of a man who hears himself explained back and doesn't like the translator. "Maybe you too will tell me that this is an honest detour," I said. "Maybe you will say you both felt ghosts in a different accent and it didn't mean anything. But when decisions are small and frequent, they compound. You can't keep calling absences pauses and expect the world not to be short a sentence." Owen took my hand then like a man trying to anchor a boat at an uncomfortable tide. "Ben, I love you," he said, the words raw and unadorned. "I didn't plan for it. I didn't know. I thought I'd be able to hold the something away. I couldn't. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Words were cheap currency then. So were all the receipts in my pocket. The map had already done its job. It had returned the night like a bill. The bench had been paid for in minutes and a kiss. I could have told him to leave, to tidy his jacket and take his jacketed life elsewhere. Maybe that would have been easier. Maybe that would have solved the moral algebra by subtraction. Instead, I sat down on the bench he and Milo had used and felt the wood claim my weight. Sitting means a person is making a decision not to be a headline. It is a stubborn, slow thing. We sat there under lamps that believed their light was tender, and the river's murmur told time to go on without being cheesy. Milo stood back like he was full of the decency you cultivate when you realize you are the third wheel in a story you didn't audition for. "It was a mistake," Milo said finally, because he couldn't help being honest in his own voice. "I didn't plan anything. I thought it was a conversation. When I realized he gestured toward Owen and coughed like an apology. I left. I didn't want to be the person who helps make something break." "I didn't want you to leave," Owen said, voice small. "But you did the only thing that mattered." We sat for a long time. the kind of long that a river practices well. Finally, I asked the question I had been stowing for when I thought I might need to be brave. Do you want to come home? Owen's answer was immediate. Yes. Do you want to make this right? His hands were suddenly my map. Yes. I can't promise forgiveness is a single document I can sign tonight, I said. It doesn't work like that. Honesty is a process, not a checkbox. But if your apology is sure, and if you mean to stop using other people's kindness as an excuse for being unkind to us, then come home. We'll figure out the language. But you need to understand one thing. If you keep cataloging absences like postcards, we will be a relationship made of scraps. He nodded. He stepped in, the way some men step into necessary chores, slow, respectful. He took my hand and we walked back up the path toward the building, each footfall an argument about whether we were willing to do the work that keeps a life from being reduced to receipts. Milo stayed behind at the bench long enough to see our silhouettes disappear into the yellow cone of the street lamp. He lifted his hand in a small, non-performative salute, and then walked back toward the city, which affords people a chance to be someone else when they leave one life and walk into the anonymity of the next. We didn't fix everything by morning. He made coffee like a man trying to memorize diction. He said the small truths first because small truths keep the big ones upright. I kissed him, he said. I didn't say I would stop. He then said the thing I needed to know. I will stop. I don't want the catalog. I want you. We made the sort of plans that aren't dramatic. They're laundry lists and phone batteries charged and time blocked for conversations that have to be had in daylight. The receipt was still in my inbox, like a ghost with polite punctuation. I archived it and didn't delete it. Some things you keep as study notes. The river kept on being a river. People walked dogs and jogged and pretended not to read their own prophecies. We are, I suppose, a pair of men who will now try to learn the vocabulary of repair. It will be slow, and it will be boring at times, and it might even be sacred in places it didn't know it could be. The scooter receipt taught me that nights have receipts you can't burn. But it also told me that sometimes a blue pin on a map can force the honest conversation we were too polite to start. When he kisses me now, there is a difference. It is the difference that comes from mouths that have been told the truth and decided, deliberately, to keep trying.